The massive space station orbited silently above Earth, casting shadows across continents. Inside its metallic halls, representatives from 100 different worlds gathered to watch what they believed would be another easy victory for the Galactic Alliance. Commander Zelther stood in the center of the arena, his purple scales gleaming under artificial lights. At 8 feet tall, with 4 muscular arms, he looked like a nightmare given form. His species, the Krellians, had conquered 73 worlds. They were the elite soldiers of the galaxy, undefeated in single combat for over 3,000 years. The arena filled with alien spectators, beings with tentacles, wings, multiple eyes, and crystalline bodies all came to witness Earth's humiliation. The humans had refused to surrender their planet to the Galactic Alliance, claiming they would defend themselves. This amused the aliens greatly. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. They were infants playing with toys they didn't understand. Ambassador Chun watched from the human section, trying to hide her nervousness. Earth's military had insisted on sending their best warrior, but looking at Zelther made her stomach turn. The alien moved with deadly grace, his 4 arms flexing independently. Each hand could crush steel. His scales deflected energy weapons. His species didn't feel pain like humans did. "Where is Earth's champion?" Zelther's voice boomed through the translator systems. Has fear frozen their warriors' feet? Laughter rippled through the alien crowd. Several species made gestures that their translators indicated were insults. The small human delegation remained quiet, waiting. The arena doors opened with a soft hiss. A single human walked in, and the laughter grew louder. He was barely 6 feet tall, with short brown hair and calm brown eyes. He wore simple black clothing that the aliens didn't recognize as a military uniform. No armor, no visible weapons. Just a human male who looked remarkably ordinary. Chief Petty Officer Marcus Rodriguez had served as a Navy SEAL for 15 years. He had completed missions in deserts, jungles, Arctic wastelands, and beneath the ocean. He had been shot, stabbed, nearly drowned, and blown up twice. When Earth's military asked for volunteers to face an alien warrior in single combat, Marcus had simply nodded and said, "When do I leave?" Zelther studied the human with his 6 eyes. "This is Earth's champion? This small, soft creature?" He turned to the crowd. "The humans insult us by sending their weak." Marcus walked to the center of the arena, his movements smooth and controlled. He had studied every piece of footage they had on Krellian fighters. He knew their strengths: incredible physical power, redundant organs, thick natural armor. He also knew their weaknesses, though the aliens would never believe a primitive human could identify them. "I'm Marcus Rodriguez," he said simply. "I'm here to discuss terms." Terms. Zelther's translator made a sound like grinding metal, Krellian laughter. "The only terms are your surrender. After I destroy you, Earth will submit to the Alliance." "I was thinking different terms," Marcus continued calmly. "When I win, the Alliance leaves Earth alone. Permanently." The arena erupted in alien laughter. Several species were literally rolling on the floor. Even Ambassador Chun looked worried. The size difference alone made victory seem impossible. Zelther could reach Marcus from 6 feet away with those long arms. "You dare suggest you might win?" Zelther spread all 4 arms wide. "I have killed warriors from worlds far more advanced than yours. I have torn apart Rigelian hunters with my bare hands. I have defeated the champions of the Silicon Confederacy. What makes you think you stand any chance?" Marcus shrugged, a gesture that confused many of the aliens. "I'm a SEAL," he said, as if that explained everything. "A SEAL." The translator struggled. "An aquatic mammal? Is this human humor?" "Something like that," Marcus said. He shifted his stance slightly, so subtle that most observers missed it. But Zelther noticed. The human's weight was perfectly balanced now. His hands hung loose at his sides, ready to move in any direction. "Enough talk," Zelther declared. "Let us begin this execution." The arena shields activated, creating an invisible dome around the 2 fighters. No interference will be possible. No escape. The fight would continue until one combatant could no longer continue. Zelther moved first, crossing the distance between them faster than most species could track. His upper right arm swept toward Marcus's head with enough force to shatter concrete. To the aliens watching, the outcome seemed certain. The human couldn't possibly dodge in time. But Marcus Rodriguez had spent years training his reflexes to superhuman levels. Time seemed to slow as combat hormones flooded his system. He didn't try to block the massive arm. That would be suicide. Instead, he stepped inside the arc of the swing, moving toward danger rather than away from it. His palm shot up and connected with what looked like a light slap against Zelther's face. The sound of the slap echoed through the arena like a gunshot. For a moment, everything stopped. The alien crowd fell silent. Even the ambient hum of the space station seemed to pause. Then Zelther's head snapped back, and he staggered. 1 second had passed. The Krellian's 6 eyes widened in shock. The human's palm had struck a specific point on his skull, a nerve cluster that Krellians didn't even know they had. Pain, real pain, shot through Zelther's nervous system like lightning. His species might be resistant to most damage, but their neural pathways were still vulnerable to precise pressure. Marcus didn't stop to admire his handiwork. As Zelther reeled, the human grabbed one of the alien's lower arms, using the creature's own momentum against him. With a twist of his hips and shoulders, Marcus threw the 8-foot alien over his shoulder. Zelther crashed to the arena floor with enough force to dent the metal plating. 2 seconds had passed. The crowd gasped. Several aliens stood up from their seats, their various sensory organs focused on the impossible scene below. A human, a primitive human from a backwater planet, had just thrown a Krellian warrior like a sack of grain. Zelther tried to rise, but Marcus was already moving. The seal dropped his knee onto a specific spot on the alien's back, right between the 2nd and 3rd scale plates. Another nerve cluster, this one controlling the Krellian's 4 arms. The pressure point technique was something human martial artists had perfected over thousands of years. Marcus had simply adapted it for alien anatomy. Zelther's arms went limp. Terror filled his 6 eyes as he realized he couldn't move his primary weapons. His scales, so effective against energy weapons and projectiles, offered no protection against precise application of pressure to neural pathways. "Please," the word came out of Zelther's translator, quiet and desperate. "Mercy. I beg for mercy." 3 seconds had passed. The arena erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted in 100 different languages. Translation systems overloaded, trying to keep up. Some species were scanning the human with every sensor they had, trying to understand what had just happened. Others were already calling their home worlds, warning them about these dangerous, primitive humans. Marcus stood up slowly, keeping 1 foot on the pressure point to maintain control. He looked up at the crowd of aliens, then at the human delegation. Ambassador Chin's mouth hung open in shock. "I accept your surrender," Marcus said calmly to Zelther. "Do you yield the match?" "Yes. Yes, I yield." Zelther's voice was high with panic. He had never felt so helpless. His entire species had never felt so helpless. "The match is yours." Marcus stepped back, allowing the alien to slowly regain control of his arms. Zelther scrambled away on all 6 limbs, his scales rattling with fear. He had faced death before, but this was different. The human had completely neutralized him without causing any permanent damage. It was a level of combat precision the galaxy had never seen. "Ow!" An insectoid alien called from the crowd. "How did you defeat a Krellian warrior?" Marcus looked up at the speaker. "Humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We've had thousands of years to perfect the art of combat. We study anatomy, pressure points, leverage, psychology. A Navy SEAL spends years learning to fight opponents who are bigger, stronger, and better armed." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Zelther made the same mistake all of you made. You thought primitive meant weak. You thought our lack of advanced technology meant we couldn't fight. But technology doesn't win fights, knowledge does. And humans have been accumulating combat knowledge since we first picked up rocks." A Rigelian diplomat stood up, his blue skin flickering with bioluminescent patterns of concern. "But the Krellians have conquered dozens of worlds. With superior technology, Marcus replied, take away the shields and plasma weapons, and what's left? Raw strength and natural armor. Impressive, but predictable. Humans don't rely on just one advantage. We adapt. We improvise. We find weaknesses where others see only strength. Zelther had managed to stand, though he stayed far from the human. His scales had lost their lustrous purple sheen, now appearing dull and gray, a sign of deep distress in his species. You studied us, he said, his translator conveying amazement. You knew exactly where to strike. Of course we studied you, Marcus said. The moment your alliance made contact, our military began analyzing every species we encountered. We mapped your anatomy, identified vulnerable points, developed countermeasures. It's what humans do. We prepare for threats. The implications hit the alien crowd like a physical force. If humans had done this level of analysis on the Krellians, the galaxy's most feared warriors, what had they learned about every other species present? How many pressure points, weak spots, and vulnerabilities had these primitives already identified? Ambassador Chen finally found her voice. She stood and addressed the arena. Earth seeks no conflict with the Galactic Alliance, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. What you've witnessed today is one human warrior trained in one of our many combat disciplines. We have millions more, each with their own specializations. She let that number sink in. Millions of humans who could potentially do what Marcus had just done. The security implications were staggering. News of the arena fight spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major civilization had received detailed reports of how a single human had defeated the Alliance's greatest warrior in 3 seconds. The footage was analyzed, reanalyzed, and dissected by military experts on 1,000 worlds. On the crystalline planet of Zirion Prime, the Council of Elders gathered in emergency session. Their bodies, made of living mineral, resonated with harmonic frequencies of concern. The humans possess combat knowledge we have never seen, the first elder chimed. They turned the Krellian's strength against him. More troubling, added another elder, is their claim to have studied all species they've encountered. What vulnerabilities have they discovered in us? The debate raged for hours. Some advocated immediate military action against Earth before humans could share their combat techniques. Others argued for diplomatic engagement, hoping to learn from these surprisingly sophisticated warriors. In the end, caution won. The Zirions voted to establish peaceful relations with Earth, not wanting to test whether humans had indeed found weaknesses in their crystalline forms. Similar discussions occurred throughout Alliance space. The Tentari, whose gelatinous bodies had always seemed invulnerable, suddenly wondered if humans had identified pressure points in their fluid structure. The Void Dancers, who existed partially in another dimension, questioned whether human combat science extended to transdimensional warfare. Back on the space station, Marcus Rodriguez sat in the human quarters, calmly sipping coffee while reading reports on a tablet. Ambassador Chun sat across from him, still processing what she had witnessed. You've changed everything, she said quietly. The entire balance of power in the galaxy just shifted. Marcus looked up. That was the point, ma'am. Deterrence through demonstration. But how did you know it would work? What if Zelther had been resistant to those pressure points? A small smile crossed Marcus's face. Then I would have used Plan B, or C, or any of the dozen other techniques I had prepared. SEALs don't go into combat with just one strategy. Chin shook her head in amazement. The Joint Chiefs were right to send you. But now what? Half the galaxy is terrified of us. The other half wants to hire us as mercenaries. Before Marcus could answer, an alert sounded. The door to their quarters opened, revealing a group of aliens. Not the usual diplomatic escorts, but warriors from various species. A Rigelian hunter, a Silicon Confederacy battle form, even a rare nebula wraith. They all shared one common feature, respect in their various optical organs. The Rigelian stepped forward, his 4 arms crossed in what Marcus recognized as a gesture of peaceful intent. Human Rodriguez, The translator conveyed deep respect. We are warriors who have dedicated our lives to combat. What we witnessed today, it was art, poetry in motion. We have come to learn. Marcus stood slowly, evaluating the group. These are not diplomats or politicians, but fellow warriors. He could see it in their stance, their scars, the way they moved. What do you want to learn? Everything. The silicon battle forms crystalline structure rang like bells. Your pressure point techniques, your anatomy studies, your combat philosophy. In exchange, we offer our own knowledge. The galaxy's fighting styles, available to Earth. Ambassador Chun started to object. This wasn't part of any diplomatic protocol. But Marcus held up a hand. He understood what was happening. Warriors throughout history had always transcended political boundaries. These beings weren't here as representatives of their governments, but as individuals seeking knowledge. There's a human saying, Marcus said, iron sharpens iron. Warriors grow stronger by training together. He looked at each alien in turn. But understand, human combat arts aren't just about technique. They're about mindset, about turning weakness into strength, disadvantage into opportunity. Can you accept that? The nebula wraith, whose form seemed to shift between solid and smoke, spoke for the first time. Its voice was like distant thunder. We have seen the proof. You defeated the strongest with precision, not power. We are ready to learn. And so began Earth's unexpected role in galactic society. Not as conquerors or the conquered, but as teachers. The same station that had hosted Earth's supposed humiliation became the first interspecies combat exchange. Human Special Forces operators trained alongside alien warriors, sharing knowledge that had taken millennia to develop. The Krellians, humbled by their defeat, were among the first to formally request training. Zelther himself, once recovered from a shock, became one of Marcus's most dedicated students. The warrior who had planned to demonstrate Earth's weakness instead became a vocal advocate for human combat sciences. I have conquered worlds, Zelther told a gathering of his fellow Krellians. But the humans conquered combat itself. They studied it, refined it, made it a science and an art. We relied on our natural gifts. They relied on knowledge and discipline. The political ramifications were immediate and far-reaching. Earth went from being seen as an easy target to a valued ally almost overnight. Defense pacts were offered. Trade agreements materialized. The Galactic Alliance, rather than demanding Earth's surrender, began negotiating for mutual protection treaties. Some species remained skeptical. The Hive Collective, with their billions of drone warriors, believed numbers would always triumph over technique. The machine consciousness calculated that sufficient firepower could overcome any martial art. But even these doubters approached Earth with newfound caution. 6 months after the arena fight, the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The interspecies combat exchange had grown from a single station to academies on dozens of worlds. Human instructors, carefully selected from Earth's elite military units, taught alongside alien masters. The fusion of combat styles created warriors more formidable than any single species had produced before. But not everyone was pleased with the new order. In the dark spaces between stars, a coalition of species who had built their power on military dominance watched their influence erode. The Dominion of Might, an alliance of conquest-driven civilizations, saw Earth's rise as a threat to their very existence. If combat skill could defeat raw power, if knowledge could overcome natural advantages, then their entire philosophy was wrong. Admiral Skorax of the Vorthan Empire stood before a gathering of Dominion leaders. His species, resembling armored scorpions the size of tanks, had never lost a ground war. The humans spread their poison across the galaxy. His translator buzzed with anger. They teach the weak to defeat the strong. This cannot stand. What do you propose? Asked General Thrak of the Gorvan Horde. Her massive frame, covered in biometallic armor, shifted restlessly. Direct assault on Earth? The humans have trained half the galaxy now. We would face not just them, but all their students. No. Skorax's tail swayed, a sign of deep thought. We strike at the source. These pressure points the humans exploit. They represent a flaw in evolution itself. We must evolve beyond them. The Dominion scientists have been working frantically since the arena fight. Using forbidden genetic manipulation and cybernetic enhancement, they sought to create warriors immune to human combat techniques. Redundant nervous systems, adaptive pressure points that shifted location, armor that learned and adapted to attacks. Meanwhile, on Earth, the changes were equally dramatic. The planet's military academies were flooded with applications from young people wanting to become combat instructors to the galaxy. Earth's martial arts, once seen as quaint traditions, were now subjects of intense academic study. Master Sergeant Sarah Kim stood before a mixed class of humans and aliens in a training facility in Seoul. Her students included a young Zirian whose crystalline form refracted the morning light, 2 Tentari who had learned to maintain solid form for combat, and a dozen human recruits. Combat is not about domination, she explained, demonstrating a joint lock on a volunteer. It's about understanding. When you truly understand how a body works, any body, you can protect it or disable it with equal skill. The Zirian raised a resonating appendage. Master Kim, my people have no joints to lock, no pressure points as flesh beings do. How do human techniques apply to us? Sarah smiled. This was why she loved teaching. Excellent question. Marcus, would you assist? From the back of the room, Marcus Rodriguez stepped forward. In the months since the arena fight, he had become Earth's unofficial ambassador of combat, teaching advanced concepts to instructors who then spread the knowledge further. The principle remains the same, Marcus said, approaching the Zirian. Every form of life has structure. For crystalline beings, it's about resonance and fracture points. He placed his hand on the Zirian's form, finding a specific harmonic frequency. A gentle tap sent vibrations through the crystal that made the alien's entire structure ring like a bell. Incredible, the Zirian chimed. I felt that through my entire being, yet it caused no damage. Now imagine if I had hostile intent, Marcus said. The same knowledge that let me find your resonance point could shatter you. Or, if you were injured, help realign your crystalline structure for healing. Combat knowledge is just applied anatomy. The lesson was interrupted by alarms. The facility's screens lit up with urgent news. The Dominion of Might had issued an ultimatum. Earth would cease all combat instruction to other species or face the combined military might of the Dominion's members. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. They had known this was coming. As Earth's influence grew, those who had ruled through fear and strength would inevitably push back. Within hours, Earth's leadership convened with their new allies. The meeting included species who, just a year ago, had planned to conquer Earth. Now, they stood ready to defend it. The Dominion thinks in terms of fleets and armies, said Ambassador Vree of the Regelian Republic. They don't understand that Earth is already won by changing how we think about combat. Still, Admiral Chun, recently promoted, and Ambassador Chen's sister, pointed out they have significant firepower. All the martial arts in the universe won't stop an orbital bombardment. Won't they? Zelther, now one of Earth's staunchest allies, leaned forward. Human combat philosophy extends beyond individual fights. Tell me, what do your special forces do when facing superior firepower? Marcus answered, we use guerrilla tactics. Asymmetric warfare. Turn the enemy's strength against them. Exactly. Zelther's scales rippled with excitement. And now you have an entire galaxy of students who understand this philosophy. The plan that emerged was audacious. Rather than meet the Dominion in traditional fleet battles, the Alliance would use human-inspired tactics on a galactic scale. Small teams of mixed-species warriors, trained in pressure point combat, and, equipped with precision rather than power, would infiltrate Dominion strongholds. They would disable rather than destroy, demonstrating that the new way of combat was not just effective, but merciful. The Dominion's fortress ship hung in space like a metal moon, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Inside, Admiral Skorax reviewed the reports with growing unease. 17 Dominion bases had been neutralized in the past week, their defenses bypassed, their warriors disabled without a single fatality. The Alliance's strike teams moved like ghosts, applying human combat principles on a strategic scale. They're inside, a subordinate reported, his armored form trembling. A mixed team. Humans, Krellians, even some Zerions. They've disabled 3 security checkpoints without triggering any alarms. Skorax's tail lashed in frustration. The Dominion had spent trillions on defensive systems, only to watch them become useless against opponents who understood the art of infiltration. Release the Enhanced. Let them face warriors who cannot be defeated by tricks. The Enhanced were the Dominion's answer to human combat arts. Genetically modified and cybernetically augmented warriors designed to have no pressure points, no neural vulnerabilities, no structural weaknesses. They were living weapons, the ultimate evolution of combat, or so the Dominion believed. In the fortress's corridors, Marcus Rodriguez led a strike team unlike any in galactic history. Beside him moved Zelther, the Krellian who had gone from enemy to star pupil. Sarah Kim covered their flank alongside a Void Dancer, who phased between dimensions. 2 Rigelian hunters and a Silicon battle form completed their unit. Movement ahead, the Void Dancer whispered, her form flickering. Something's different about them. The Enhanced appeared around the corner, massive beings that seemed to be part biological, part machine, part energy field. Their forms constantly shifted, adapting to perceived threats. Marcus felt a moment of professional appreciation. The Dominion had learned from their defeats. Remember your training, Marcus said calmly. Every system has vulnerabilities. Every adaptation creates new weaknesses. The first Enhanced charged with speed that blurred reality. Its fist, capable of punching through starship hulls, swept towards Sarah's head. But she wasn't there anymore. Using footwork learned from human martial arts, and enhanced by Void Dancer phasing techniques, she existed slightly out of sync with normal space. Her counterstrike didn't target the Enhanced body, that was too adaptable. Instead, she struck at the cybernetic control nodes that coordinated its transformations. The Enhanced stumbled, its adaptations suddenly working against each other. Zelther flowed into action, his 4 arms moving in patterns that combined Krellian strength with human precision. He had learned that power meant nothing without proper application. His strikes disrupted the Enhanced energy fields, creating openings for the others. The battle was brief, but intense. The strike team worked in perfect harmony, each member contributing their species' strengths guided by human tactical thinking. The Enhanced, for all their augmentations, couldn't adapt to opponents who attacked not just their bodies, but the very systems that made them function. Pathway clear, Marcus reported, moving to primary objective. They found Admiral Skorax in the fortress's command center, surrounded by the last of his Enhanced guards. The Vorthan's compound eyes tracked their movement, his tail poised to strike. "You've corrupted the natural order," Skorax hissed. "The strong should rule the weak. It has always been so." "Define strength," Marcus replied, never taking his eyes off the Admiral. "Is it raw power? Or is it the ability to adapt, learn, and grow?" Humans were physically weak compared to most galactic species, so we became strong in other ways. "Philosophy won't save you from this." Skorax launched himself forward, his Enhanced guards attacking simultaneously. What followed was a combat lesson that would be studied in academies for generations. The strike team didn't try to match the Dominion force's strength for strength. Instead, they flowed like water, redirecting attacks, using the enemy's power against them. Sarah disabled an Enhanced by making it punch its own control systems. The Void Dancer phased attacks through dimensions, causing enemies to strike each other. Zelther used throws and redirects that would have been impossible before learning human leverage principles. Marcus faced Skorax directly. The Vorthan Admiral was a formidable opponent, his scorpion-like form providing natural weapons and armor. But Marcus had spent months studying Vorthan anatomy, identifying the neural pathways that controlled their segmented bodies. The fight lasted less than a minute. Marcus moved inside Skorax's reach, his hands finding specific points where the Admiral's segments joined. A series of precise strikes disrupted the neural connections. Skorax's tail went limp, then his legs. The admiral collapsed, conscious but paralyzed. Impossible, Skorax wheezed. We evolved beyond your tricks. You evolved your bodies, Marcus said, kneeling beside the defeated admiral. But not your thinking. You still believe might makes right. But the galaxy has learned a different lesson. Knowledge makes might. The fall of the Dominion's fortress marked the end of an era. Without their leadership, and faced with opponents who could disable any warrior regardless of size or strength, the Dominion's member species began negotiating for peace. Many requested admission to the combat academies, wanting to learn rather than conquer. A year later, Earth hosted the first Galactic Combat Arts Championship. Warriors from every corner of the galaxy competed not for domination, but for excellence. The events tested not just physical prowess, but understanding of anatomy, tactics, and philosophy. Marcus Rodriguez, now retired from active duty, served as a judge. He watched with satisfaction as a young Vorthan, trained in the new ways, sparred with a human student. They moved with mutual respect, each learning from the other. You changed the galaxy, Zelther said, joining him in the viewing box. The Krellian wore the insignia of a master instructor, one of the highest honors in the new combat academies. Not just me, Marcus replied. That slap in the arena was just the beginning. What changed the galaxy was the idea that anyone could learn, anyone could improve, anyone could become more than their biology determined. The championships continued for days, showcasing combat styles that blended the best of every species. Humans taught precision and adaptability. Krellians contributed strength and endurance. Zirions added their understanding of harmonics and structural integrity. Even the Void Dancers shared their dimensional phasing techniques. In the end, the winner was a young Tentari who had combined her species' fluid nature with human grappling techniques, Rigelian speed training, and Krellian power generation. Her victory speech summed up the new galactic philosophy. We are stronger together than alone. Every species brings something unique. Humans showed us that true strength comes from understanding and respecting these differences. Ambassador Chun, now serving as Earth's senior representative to the Galactic Council, smiled as she watched the ceremony. The small blue planet that had seemed so vulnerable just 2 years ago was now the galaxy's center for learning and growth. Who would have thought, she mused to her aide, that humanity's greatest export wouldn't be technology or resources, but the simple idea that knowledge and understanding trump raw power. The aide, a young officer who had grown up in this new galaxy, looked puzzled. Why is that surprising, ma'am? It seems obvious that brains beat brawn. Chun laughed. Only because a Navy SEAL made it obvious with one well-placed slap. As the ceremonies concluded and representatives from 100 worlds mingled peacefully, Marcus Rodriguez quietly left the stadium. His work was done. The galaxy had learned humanity's most important lesson. True strength came not from dominating others, but from empowering them to become their best selves. The warrior who had brought down the galaxy's strongest fighter with a single slap had given the universe something far more powerful than any weapon. He had given them hope that anyone could transcend their limitations through knowledge, discipline, and respect for others. And in the vast expanse of space on countless worlds, in thousands of academies, beings of every shape and size trained together, learning that the greatest victory was not conquest but understanding.